you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen. I'm Elisa, and I'm doing a reading. I am starting with the Mystical Shaman Oracle, which I often start with. Yeah, we just finished out Eclipse season. There was a lot of stuff that got worked out in Eclipse season. I actually made a whole thread just for the eclipse reading, so if you want to go back and check that out, I'll put a link to it at the end of the video if you want to check it out. Also, if you're new to the channel, thanks. Nice to see you. There's a lot of new people lately, so that's kind of cool. I'm actually a vegan cheesemaker. That's like really my calling in life, but I'm on hiatus due to some like family emergencies, COVID, you know, that kind of thing. I think it's going around for a lot of people right now. I am doing a special for the holidays where I'm doing personal readings, which I don't normally do, but I'm doing it for the holidays. There's a link down below in the description. You can check it out. It's $35. It's a really good deal. It's just like a personal reading in the same format that these are in. Yeah, check it out. Okay. Wow. Okay. This seems like an interesting follow-up. Oh my god. To Eclipse season. So at the bottom we got the blade. So this is interesting because, you know, it sort of climaxes at this full moon. It's interesting because we just had this eclipse, you know, and so I don't know if this is going to climax at the full moon later on. But this is like truth, undeniable truth that's like coming through. And it's really interesting because I was just going to say, like during eclipse season, we worked through a lot of blockages, like energetically, and I think there was like a lot of inner work that was being done, like that was coming through in all the readings. And so it's like now we've kind of done that work, and we're like having to like confront the world around us, and so like inevitably there's going to be like conflict that arises from that. And so it's interesting that this comes out because it's like, you know, there's definitely been this theme that's been coming through the last couple of months with like these dueling realities and like this clash, you know, because people are sort of like not inhabiting the same reality, and then there's like confrontations around that. So that's a thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So anyways, the cards. I got the Jaguar. I got Wind. I got Lightning. I got Vision Quest and the Sorcerer. So this is really interesting because this speaks to Jaguar is sort of like at the top of the food chain in the Amazon, you know, and the Jaguar can really roam anywhere, you know. There's no place that's off limits because the Jaguar is sort of like in command of itself, you know, and it's like in command of its shadow. Like the Jaguar has like done all the shadow work, like owns its dark and its light side. Like it can traverse the deepest, darkest resources of the Amazon, and yet it's still at the top of the food chain. And part of that is because the Jaguar is like in command of like sort of like the light and the dark, you know. I mean, I think this is a sort of a metaphor for just like having owned your like sort of shadow element, accepted it, and like are like just fully in command of your emotional realm. And so because of that, like you are fully empowered and at the top of the food chain, you know. So then we have the Wind, which like this speaks to change, but it also speaks to like having the courage to face the change, you know. And all change starts internally, you know, and you have to go inward to figure out you know, and it's interesting because, like I was saying, this was like the total exploration that happened during eclipse season. So there's this change happening. And then we have lightning, which, you know, this is just like basically like a huge wake-up call, like the universe confronting you with a new reality, or a new perspective, or a new way of seeing things, and like you have no choice other than to acknowledge it. Like, it just is what it is, you know. And then we have the Vision Quest, which is a card of like having courage to like step outside of your comfort zone and like follow your destiny wherever that leads, you know. And then we have the Sorcerer. So the Sorcerer speaks to, like, again, working on your shadow side and like healing that element and like integrating those sort of like lost parts of ourselves that like we've kind of disowned because they're either too painful or we can't face them, or, you know. But there's like a distortion that comes from that, you know. And it's interesting because, like I was saying, the whole theme of the eclipse season was like healing these distortions and like stepping into a new reality. So it's just sort of like we've stepped outside of those distortions, you know, outside of our comfort zone, and we become enlightened, you know. And this is leading to this great change that's like fully empowering, you know. So it's interesting because I've like kind of gone both directions. This is like a process, but like these cards that came out are like fully analogous to this whole, basically all the readings that came through for the eclipse season. So that's really interesting. Okay, so I'm going to go to Urban Tarot. At the bottom we have the 10 of Pentacles. So this is a card of wealth, you know. It's like, this is a big theme in the thread called Dynasty, you know. And this is like generational wealth. Like, this is like a really solid foundation that you could like build a family or empire, you know, like for generations on, you know. So then when I go through the cards, like on the top row we have futility, we have success, we have strife, we have truce, and we have the Hermit. So it's interesting because, I mean, this speaks to this futile situation, you know, which this situation, this is a 7 of Swords in the traditional deck, and it's like I was speaking to like living in like a reality that's kind of like based on maybe a distorted perception. Like, it might not actually be the same reality that other people are living in, you know. It's sort of like like delusional, you know, like you're not either being honest with yourself or the people in your life. And this is, you know, when there's like a distortion, when you're not like in alignment with how things really are, with the truth, inevitably you're going to create a futile situation, you know. And that's what this is, you know. But we see that coming into balance, you know. We have success here. We have the 6 of Pentacles, which is like things coming into balance, you know. But there's going to be a lot of conflict that comes, strife that comes in the course of bringing that into balance, you know. And so we have the 4 of Swords here, which is like truce in this card, you know, like trying to find some middle ground, you know, with these dueling polarities, you know. And then we have the Hermit, which speaks to like a spiritual quest, you know, and like kind of going your own way and doing what's right for you, and like also just like working on yourself and like healing, you know, whatever that distortion is, you know. I mean, that's, but then underneath all of that, running underneath all of that, we have the Sun, which is like total fulfillment and happiness. It's like the best card in the deck. We have the Princess of Wands. This is like, it's like a new way of looking at things in like the traditional deck. And we have this like dancer who is just like full of passion and fire, and she's like innovating. She's got this like fire wand, and she's like doing like wild stuff with it. It's just sort of like kind of like being outside of your comfort zone, like doing things the way you've never done them before, you know. And then we have this new opportunity, the Ace of Discs, and this is like a really solid opportunity. Then we have the Seducer, which is interesting because the Seducer is all about this futile situation, you know, like the Seducer gets by like pulling people into this futile situation. It's like based on a fantasy. Like it doesn't really necessarily matter if it's true or not. Like if you can get people to buy into it, if it's what people want to hear, then like that can get them to tomorrow, or you know, because the Seducer deals in fantasies, you know, like the Seducer isn't necessarily worried about getting the job done. Like the Seducer's like in it for the ride, you know. And so it's interesting that we have both of these cards in this deck. And then we have the Activist. Like, so this is somebody who has like a cause behind them, you know, like they're on a mission. They want to make the world better. They're like making things happen, you know, and it's like, we had this card yesterday, the rainbow, and it was talking about like all the power, the colors of the rainbow, like, and this like force that's like driving this person forward. And it's like this kind of a similar theme in this card, you know. So it's interesting because we have all this like futile situation and conflict and on the top, but then underneath it we have all this like actually like positive stuff like bubbling up. Like we've got this new foundation, like this tangible solid opportunity, and we have this happiness and fulfillment. And we have this innovation and this new spark, you know. And we have this really passionate person that's like aligned with a cause, you know. All of those on the bottom row. But then we also have this one person who's kind of like throwing things for a loop, because this person is sort of like in the mix, you know. So it's just like, what are you going to get? You know, behind door number 1, you've got this like, this person who's like in it to win it and has like a cause. And like behind door number 2, we've got this like smooth talking Seducer, and he looks really cute and stuff, you know, but you know what happens when you open the door, you know, like what happens the next morning when you wake up, you know. But it's like there's all these positive things like brewing underneath the surface, but behind one of these doors we've got this flaky guy, you know. So bubbling up on top of that, we've got like this futile situation, you know, but we've also got things coming into balance, and we've got, you know, like this new opportunity is like bubbling up under this strife, you know. So it's just like this new opportunity is creating like a new world, but like there's gonna be resistance to it, like, you know, like not everyone's necessarily happy about it, but like the new spark and the innovation is going to lead to success. And we have this happiness, this fulfillment that's been blocked by this futile situation, you know, like that's kind of like what I was talking about. You know, we've done all this inner work with the eclipse season, and eventually, you know, we have to come up for air, and we're going to have to confront these blockages in our outer world, you know. And like right now, this happiness is kind of being blocked by this sort of delusion, you know. But we've got a lot of potential here, you know. We have the potential to make peace with this used car salesman guy, you know. And we have this person who's trying to make the world better, going on the spiritual quest, you know. So it's interesting because then I pulled the Radiant Wise Spirit over on top of it, and I got the Lovers, which this, I mean, this can be like a deep love connection, but in this reading, like I'm kind of like getting this sort of like reconciling like these polarities, you know, and like having to come together into this functional way forward. I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting in this specific reading. We got the Wheel of Fortune. We got the Sun again, you know, so there's like a lot of potential here. We've got the Queen of Swords, the Nine of Swords, and we have the Queen of Pentacles. So it's like interesting because this is like change. Things are flipping, you know, and that fell right on top of this futile situation, which is blocking all this happiness and abundance, you know. So it's just like this situation is flipping. So like this futile situation is being overcome, you know. And then we got the Sun card again, you know, on top of this things coming into balance with this new spark, with this new innovation. It's leading to happiness and fulfillment and success. And we have, you know, someone having to draw boundaries and like be a little harsh, you know, and that is falling right on top of this new opportunity, which is kind of like leading to some conflict because it's kind of upsetting the apple cart, you know, and like somebody might have to draw boundaries around a situation in order to make way for this new opportunity to happen, you know. And then we have this total fear and anxiety that's like up at night, like anxiety, you know. That's interestingly falling on top of this guy, the charmer, the snake charmer. And like things are, it's like he's kind of taking a time out, you know, and like maybe he's going to start dealing with his stuff, you know, but there's a lot of stuff to work through for this guy, you know. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles, which interestingly falls on top of this activist and this hermit, you know, which the hermit is also an earth sign. So it's just like this Queen of Pentacles, she came out in a reading not too long ago, and it was like she had this blessing to bring forward. So she might be this activist, you know, that like is going to change the world, you know. And they've got like, it's interesting how these kind of line up, you know. Like this person is in line with like spirit, you know, like so yeah, like this is really interesting. I mean, it looks like I was saying, we're coming out of the eclipse, we've done all this work, and there's like kind of like a confrontation that's happening, because, you know, it's just like some people like did take the time and did clear their channels and like are ready to like move forward, and like, you know, there's definitely the status quo doesn't really want to, you know. So it's like when you bring things into the realm of reality, you know, we have these polar like realities, and eventually like one is going to have to emerge as the way forward, you know. And like, so an example could be like the election, you know, like there's been all this polarity around the election, and there's these dueling realities because, you know, I mean, both realities are real to whichever side you're on, you know. I mean, because different people live based on different values, and depending on like what part of the country you live on, like you might value certain things above other things. And both of those realities are real to the people who are living in them, you know, but at the end of the day, we're choosing one of them as sort of the paradigm that we're going to move forward in, you know. And that's just how it is, you know, and this happens every election, you know, and we never have everybody on the same page, you know. There's always like an undercurrent, you know. So it definitely looks like we're going through this upheaval where that is changing, or maybe it's like a changing of the guard or the undercurrent that's like raining, you know. But this reading looks like there's like a lot of potential, you know, and there's a lot of change happening. And there's, you know, also a lot of drama, and there's a lot of conflict, you know, but things are changing, and there's a lot of opportunity to build a new reality that's like really positive too, you know? So it's just like 4 out of the 5 doors have good outcomes. There's just like one that's like, door number 4. You don't want that one, you know? But those are pretty good odds, you know? But there is one that's looking a little harsh, like where you might have to go back to the drawing board until the next cycle. So hopefully you did the work during the eclipse and you're not going to have a harsh reality check once things get moving again. I hope. We shall see. I'm going to pull a couple cards from Starseed to end the reading. And, yeah, thanks for joining. Okay, so we got double mission. Lightworkers, Starseeds, serve the world by being you. It's interesting because that really lines up with his activist. It's like trying to make the world better, you know? Like, I think that's a good place to focus right now, you know, especially because there's definitely lots of problems to address, you know? And then Breath of the Cosmos. My will to thy will. Micromanaging the universe. So, like, I think this is like a message about sort of like, you know, sometimes things are bigger than you and you just kind of have to give it up to the universe or give it up to God and like have reverence for powers that are bigger than you, you know? But I think that's a good strategy when things can be really overwhelming. But overall, I think there's a lot of potential that's out there right now if you can like be resonating on the channel that's like moving forward. So here's hoping that you are on that channel. If you're interested in a personal reading, it's linked down below. I'm just going to do it for a little while longer, but reach out if you're interested, and we'll check in soon with another reading.